All right, let's talk about one of the craziest, most ambitious construction projects on the planet, Singapore's Marina Bay Sands. We're going to dive into the engineering story behind this absolute icon, a building that, let's be honest, looks like it shouldn't even be standing. I mean, seriously, look at it. The biggest question is, how? How in the world do you build something that seems to completely defy the laws of physics? Something that looks like it's just going to tip right over. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning with the ground itself. The whole thing had to be built on reclaimed land. And the foundation? It was so soft, so unstable that the engineers actually called it, get this, black toothpaste. Not exactly what you want to build a multi-billion-dollar resort on, right? Then, on top of that black toothpaste, you're supposed to build not one, not two, but three enormous 57-story skyscrapers. And here's the kicker. They're not straight. Nope, the design called for them to lean, to curve at these wild, terrifying angles. And just when you think it can't get any crazier, the final piece of the puzzle is to somehow balance something the size and weight of an aircraft carrier on top of it all. It just sounds completely impossible, so let's break down exactly how they pulled it off. Okay, first up, challenge number 1, that whole black toothpaste problem. Before they could even think about going vertical, the engineers had to win a massive battle with the ground itself. So this stuff is called marine clay, and it's basically a soft, super treacherous sludge. Now, the stakes here were unbelievably high. This exact same type of clay had caused a fatal tunnel collapse in Singapore just a few years before this project. So the team knew there was absolutely zero room for error. One of the engineers, Mike Barton, he put it really simply. He said, the problem is the clay is so soft that when you dig a hole, the walls just want to move in and collapse. You're basically trying to dig in mush. They were, for all intents and purposes, building on a ticking time bomb. So what was the solution? It was something absolutely monumental. Diaphragm walls. And listen, these are not your average walls. We're talking colossal slabs of steel-reinforced concrete. Each one pounded 50 meters, that's over 160 feet, deep into the ground. The whole point was to build a giant, rock-solid, watertight box inside of the sludge. And the process was just brilliant. First, they pound over 4,000 meters of these walls into the seabed. Then, they used those walls to form these huge, stable enclosures. The team actually nicknamed them the peanut and the donut. And only then, once they were safely inside this rock-solid perimeter, could the workers finally start digging. Just like that, the foundation was secure. All right, so the ground is finally stable, but now comes challenge number 2, taming those leaning towers. This part is all about defying gravity with a design that was, frankly, as incredible as it was risky. So here's why this was so dangerous. Think about a normal skyscraper. All its weight pushes straight down. Simple, right? But with the leaning design of Marina Bay Sands, you get this huge outward force at the bottom. The towers weren't just pushing down, they were actively trying to split apart. They were trying to tear themselves in two. You know, the engineers knew they were completely in uncharted territory. The lead engineer, Craig Glover, said he'd been in the business for 25 years and had seen nothing like it. There was nothing to copy, no reference book to check. This was, in his words, a new frontier. They were literally making it up as they went along. The solution they came up with was a 3-part engineering work of art. First, as the towers were being built, they used these huge temporary steel stilts to just prop them up. Then they installed permanent steel cables deep inside the walls and cranked them tight, literally pulling the building back on itself to hold it together. And for the final move, they installed these giant steel link trusses way up on the 23rd floor, locking all 3 towers together for good. Okay, so the foundation is solid. The towers are standing. Now it's time for the grand finale. Challenge number 3, lifting a ship into the sky. This is all about that incredible SkyPark and the fight against Mother Nature herself. Now, to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, the 2 biggest pieces of the SkyPark that they had to lift weighed a combined 1,400 tons. That's like lifting 10 jumbo jets 200 meters straight up in the air all at once. It's just insane. But believe it or not, just lifting it was only half the battle, because that led to an even trickier problem. How do you bolt a single massive roof onto 3 separate towers that are actually designed to move? I mean, they're supposed to sway in typhoon winds. How does that even work? Well, the answer, brilliantly, came from bridge engineering.
They built in these special movement joints, basically carefully designed gaps that let the towers sway almost 10 inches without breaking the SkyPark. Underneath the park, they put in these huge steel bearings, kind of like ball bearings, that let the towers just glide around. Even that amazing infinity pool, it's not one pool. It's 3 separate tubs with their own joints, so the whole thing can flex without a single crack. It's just genius. And the day of the main lift? Oh, it was pure drama. The whole thing was supposed to be this super slow 16-hour operation, but right in the middle of it, a crazy monsoon storm rolls in, lightning everywhere. They had to stop for 3 hours, with this 1,400-ton behemoth just dangling in the wind. Can you imagine the tension? Anyway, the storm finally passed, they started it back up, and well, after midnight, they slotted it into place with an accuracy of just 5 to 10 millimeters. Jaw-dropping precision. So when you put it all together, what does it really take to engineer an icon like this? Well, it's a story of taking a vision that seemed completely impossible and turning it into a landmark for the whole world to see. I mean, just think about everything this team had to overcome. They beat the black toothpaste. They figured out how to make 3 leaning skyscrapers stand up. They lifted a ship into the sky. And get this, they did all of it during the 2008 global financial crisis and finished the entire thing in a mind-blowing 3 years. It's just staggering. So, the final bill for turning this wild architectural dream into reality, a cool $5.5 billion. It was an absolutely massive gamble, but one that completely and forever changed the skyline of Singapore. You know, I think the architect Moshe Savdi put it perfectly. He said you have to think of it less like a single building, a sonata, and more like a piece of a city, a symphony. It's all about how these completely different, impossible parts came together to create one single, incredible thing. And that really leaves us with one big question, doesn't it? After seeing how these engineers made the impossible happen at Marina Bay Sands, you just have to wonder, what's next? What's the next impossible building that's going to completely change a city's skyline?